Hello, my name is Jane Caddick, and today, as part of my Forest School Level 3 Portfolio Unit 2, I'm going to demonstrate lighting a fire and boiling some water. I'm going to start by laying the fire, and then I will talk you through the safety things that I have in place. So, the fire needs three things. We call it the fire triangle. We need oxygen, and we need heat, and we need fuel. Well, the oxygen we can get from the air around us, and the fuel is the sticks that we burn on the fire. And we've got three different sizes that we use. We start off with what we call tinder, which is really sort of thin, very brittle, very flammable little sticks. You can also use pine cones. This King Alfred's cakes fungus that will catch a spark and will smoulder. Fat sticks light really easily, and pine cones as well. And we've also got a little bit of silver birch bark. I'm going to be using silver birch twigs for mine. After that, we have the tinder, and then we have what we call kindling, which is anything about the size of a pencil. And then finally we have our fuel, which is it's probably about as long as our forearm and certainly no thicker than that. So I'm going to be lighting a teepee style fire. It's a very quick fire to light, and it's absolutely perfect for boiling water. It's also very good for giving you a bit of heat and to creating a bit of light when it's dark. So to do that, I'm going to start by putting a bed of slightly green wood on the base of my fire pit. If I was in my forest school setting, I would lay this on the fire pit which we have on the ground, which has a fire square around it. And the reason I do this is because I'm trying to create channels for the oxygen to come up through my fire. So I need to think about where the wind is coming from. There's not a great deal of it about at the moment. So it's probably coming about this way, so change it slightly that way. Okay. Now I'm going to lay my tinder pile, which I'm going to scrunch up on top of those sticks. Still in there. Just going to add a little bit of silver birch bark as well, just on the top of that. It's very resinous, and so it catches fire really easily. So the next stage is to create the teepee around the tinder. So taking my kindling sticks, I'm going to build a pyramid, and I'm going to leave a little doorway where the wind is coming from. So I'm working my way around. When we are lighting a fire and selecting our wood, we often would get the children to go around the site collecting it, but we always use dry standing deadwood, so which is wood that has fallen off a tree or is still hanging in a tree which is dead. To help it dry out, we stand it up in piles around the site and just let it dry out, and we just use that for our fire. If you use green wood, it will smoke. It's not very efficient. The only wood that's really good for burning green is ash. So I've got my teepee of tinder, kindling, and now I'm going to put around my fuel logs around the outside. I only need to make my fire big enough so that it will burn for about 10 minutes, because that's how long it's roughly going to take for my water to boil. So we never build a fire bigger than we need it to be, and I think it's probably going to be right. I can always add a little bit more fuel to that if I need to. So the next stage is to light the fire. To do that, and to get my heat, which is going to be my flame, I'm going to be using cotton wool and a little bit of petroleum jelly, paraffin. This helps the cotton wool fibres to just hold a flame for a little bit longer, long enough for the tinder to then light. So just put a little bit of dab some of that on there. Doesn't need to be a huge amount. And then using my steel, I'm going to make sure that I put this in here, on top of my tinder. I'm going to create a spark to catch that alight. Hopefully that's now going to catch that tinder alight. If any one of those elements is missing, either the oxygen or the heat or the fuel, then you cannot have a fire. It depends on all three of those to happen. Okay, that's light now. So whenever I'm now approaching the fire, because I've got flames, I'll be using my fire gloves. And I'm going to get my kettle ready. So I'm using a tripod on the fire pit at school. We tend to use a rack that we have, but we also use a tripod as well. This needs a chain. I'm going to go away from the flames, stand upwind of them. Burning quite high at the moment, so leave that, and while that is now heating up, I'm going to keep an eye on the fire at all times. Number one rule at any forest school site is a fire is never left unattended. There'll always be a leader there overseeing the site itself. And we have what we call a fire circle in place here. If you look, you can see that I have got tree stumps sited around. They are sited almost between 1.5 and 2 meters away from the fire pit itself. And when we call the children, or we want the children to come to the fire circle, we ask them to come in from the outside. They will come in and they will take a seat, and they will only come into this area if they are invited. In which case we have an entrance point and we also have an exit point, and the children get to know where those are. They don't ever change. If they want to leave the fire area, that's okay, but they do so by standing up and coming behind their log, and then they can walk around the outside of the fire circle quite safely. Round here, I've got 2 buckets of water. I've got one which is used for burns, so if anyone does get burnt, that is for submerging your hand or your arm or whatever it is in that bucket of water. And the other one is to put the fire out if we need to in an emergency. I also have a fire blanket, and through a series of games we teach the children the procedure. We would use a fire blanket if anyone accidentally got their clothes caught on fire. It's literally stop, drop, roll, and the children know that. We also have, always present, we have a first aid kit as well, with a burns kit inside it. And that all of these will be in the same position whenever we have a fire, so the children know where they are, and we can find them easily. So you can see that the fire is burning quite happily there. I might lower my kettle just a little bit. I'm using my gloves. Now, because I'm using a fire pit here, I don't have my fire area marked out with logs, which we do at the fire school site. There we use green logs, and they form a 1 metre by 1 metre square, and the fire is lit within that. That is the safety zone. The children know that they are never to go in that fire square. Here, because I don't have that, the actual dish itself becomes a fire square, and so we would tell the children that they must not on any account touch the metal, because it will be really, really hot. So it's one of the other safety rules we have in place. Just waiting for that water to boil. Tinder box, because it's really important to keep that really dry at times. And I shall return my steel and other things I've been using to their correct places. I placed my wood on a waterproof mat, again to keep it dry. Sometimes, we can come into a site and it's been a bit wet, and the grass isn't that dry, or the area where we have our fire circle isn't very dry, and we want to try and keep as much moisture out of our wood as possible. So that's why it's sat on that. Now I'm going to check my fire and see if I've still got enough heat left in that which I definitely have. And you can see I've now got steam coming out of the kettle. Move around the side as the wind is coming that way. I'm going to try and stay upwind of the fire. When you are deciding on a site for your fire circle, it's really important that you look at the ground around you. You would never light a fire on peaty soil, because it can take fire underground and it can burn for quite a long time and then come up and damage tree roots. You have to make sure that there are no tree roots in the vicinity as well. You need to look above you and check that you've got no overhanging branches or any trees there which could get smoke damage or heat damage. And also this area, you don't want any sort of high, dry, flammable, grassy terrain. If there's any flint or stones, you really need to check that, because flint and some stone can shatter and explode if it heats up. So you either remove it or you find another place to have your fire. The soil to have fire on is really sand, sand or clay soil, and we're really lucky in our forest school site that's what we have. So I can see now that my water's now boiling. Nice lot of steam coming out of that, and I've still got enough heat left in my fire. So I'm going to take that off, make my cup of tea. I've got my fire glove on. I would never go and pick that up without a fire glove on because it's made of metal and it will be far too hot. So I'm going to very carefully pour my tea. I don't want that to go back on the fire, but equally I don't want to leave it only. So I'm just going to find something heat-proof. I don't want to put it on my grass. Put it on one of my legs.